Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us here today on our dental oral health focused podcast brought to you by Slice of Healthcare. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Joining me today is the founder and CEO of Overjet, Wardah Inam. How are you?
Hi, Jared. I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
I'm excited to have you on. We've really been diving deeper into the dental space recently. We had some of the leaders from CareQuest on to kind of talk about their initiatives, and then we've even brought on some of the people from like the DSO world, like Tend, Chief Dental Officer, and dental's making so many waves, and it's really interesting to see what you're doing. But before we start off, I always lead in with this question now. You're walking down the street, someone sees you in some sort of, shirt that says Overjet or sweatshirt, and they say, "What does Overjet do?" What do you tell them?
So, Overjet is a dental AI company which helps dental organizations such as insurance companies and dental practices help provide the best care possible, as well as improve their organizations.
And what made you want to start this company in the first place? You had a background, you were at MIT. What made you want to say, "I'm going to start this this company in the dental AI space"?
So I changed my dentist and got a treatment plan which was very different than I had received before. So it was more of a personal experience that led me to this, where I started. Got interested in dentistry because of that. The more I learned, the more obsessed I got with it, and to the point that I quit my job and started shadowing dentists and trying to learn more about the industry, how it was impacting so many people's lives, and what we could do here utilizing technology to improve the care that was being provided.
Let's assume there's people tuning in that are these are my favorite people to reach, by the way, the ones that haven't heard about you or are just kind of trying to put all the pieces together. Give us the before Overjet and the after Overjet point of view.
So before Overjet, the world that existed there is all the data that is being produced is being processed manually. So humans are acting as data routers, data processors. It's more subjective, as well as a lot of cost is going towards doing these manual operations. And patients are not understanding what the dentist is communicating clinically to them. And with Overjet, first we automate a lot of these administrative tasks, such as claims processing or things that need to be just charted, etc. And then, secondly, we help dentists make better diagnoses, much more objective, much more evidence based, and being able to then communicate with the patients. So it is the artificial intelligence there, so computer vision, natural language processing, analyzes X-rays, notes, and other clinical data, and is able to help uh, uh, automate the administrative tasks and augment clinical decision making to improve the care that is being provided.
And when you were starting this, what were the biggest points of frustration that you had to get past, that you had to figure out? Obviously, you did it the right way in terms of shadowing these dentists and understanding kind of what the workflow looks like and what their day to day is. But I'm sure you dealt with your fair deal of frustrations in the early days. What were those, and how did you get past them?
I think one of the things is that dentists are doing so much in a day. It's a very fast paced environment. So there is very little room for error in terms of whether it is, the things loading a little slowly or things taking, or they're just being, the workflow not being as smooth as it can be. And that's where, as you're building software, you're building an MVP, you're just trying to get into the market. And of course, the value proposition is big, is strong enough that people want to use it. But when you get into the practice, you need to be, providing not an MVP. You need to be providing something which works pretty well. It's very smooth, etc. Because you have very little room for error, and dentists are very busy, so they're not going to take that many chances. Or if are moving slowly, their workflow gets disrupted as well. So I think that's one challenge that we had. How do we actually get very mature very, very quickly, such that we can provide the best products to our customers.
Why is it that dental AI is more mature than kind of other medical fields that are working to implement AI? What is that? What is the piece or pieces that makes dental AI way more mature?
So the first piece that helped us. So I was previously working in radiology, and if you think of a radiologist's job, is to read the radiological data, so X-rays or MRI scans, etc., and make diagnosis on it. So as you think of about introducing AI, where it has worked in radiology is more around triage, and I think that was the first like big thing that came about. But because that's all that radio, not all, but like that's most part of radiology job, it is pretty hard to say, hey, this is going to do a better job than what you guys are doing. While if you think about in dentistry, a dentist is not just a radiologist. There are a surgeon, and they consider themselves as a surgeon. They're also the business owner. They're also the leader of that practice. They're also doing morning huddles. They're also training the staff, etc. So they have a lot more responsibility, and in that responsibility, the time they spend on actually looking at radiographs or and communicating with the patients is a very small amount of time. So the time they're in a time crunch. So tools that can help them make a much more comprehensive diagnosis and provide them an ability to communicate better with patients really is helpful for them because of the profession itself. And a lot of times this work is done by a hygienist who collects the information, presents it to the dentist, and the dentist takes it and communicates it and provides the final diagnosis there. So I think that just the nature of dentistry helps there as well. Also, if you think about a dental environment, a radiologist is sitting in a dark room looking at these X-rays while a dentist is moving across different rooms, different screens, different lighting while they're doing a procedure, and then going into the operatories as well. So they have to be constantly switching in their mind what they're doing, and then having tools that helping them in that as well. The second is the field of view is smaller, right? It is just this area, although a very important area, but the field of view gets smaller, so you can really build uh, very high quality outputs and machine learning models that can not only provide help dentists provide a much more accurate diagnosis, but when dentists work with the technology, they get much better as well. So that's been, I would say, the two things. And the last thing I'll say is just the way dentistry is. In terms of their it's more distributed. There's decisioning at a practice that's happening as well, not just at a hospital level or a DSO in dentistry at a dental service organization level. So you can get it into practices quickly as well. And then lastly, I would say the incentives are aligned too. So the if you're providing a better diagnosis, you are and you're not missing diseases, you're also treating them, and you're actually getting revenue from doing so as well. So the monetary incentives are more aligned for utilizing the technology. So there are many reasons, macro reasons that have helped the adoption of Overjet into thousands of practices, and then of course the technology has to be good enough for that to happen as well.
Going back to kind of Overjet specifically, can you share any like any case studies or anything that like really has excited you? Obviously, this isn't new, right? You've been at this now for a little while. Like anything that really excites you by the data that you've received, that the feedback that you've received, anything that you can share with us?
So I think probably the best part of my job is getting that feedback that we receive all the way from from the patients writing reviews for their dentists on Google reviews or Yelp, etc. Which is pretty fascinating to see. To I think I was at a conference and a dentist walks up and they're just ecstatic to see me. I think nobody has been this happy other than my kid to see me come into a room, and they were basically they had they had used we hadn't met before. They were using our product, and they were so excited because they felt that it was giving them so much more confidence when they were doing diagnosis, and it had changed their game, and they felt much better doing their job, and much better about themselves. So that was, very, very exciting as well. And the third is, actually, there was a large group who invited us as a leadership team to join their meeting. And they had written, it was a 1 hour of them telling us how great we were, which, there was a poem. This was pre chat gpt, so they actually wrote a poem about us and Overjet and how it has changed their organization. And some of the examples they provided were things like, a dentist who had been practicing for 20, 30 years, standing up and saying, I'm so, I was disappointed the way I was. Now I look back and how I was practicing, and I'm so proud of myself for really, being able to give the best care to the patient. So I think there is, I think we hear these stories all the time now. So we're probably getting a little more desensitized to these. But I think it's the best part of my job, really seeing how the impact that the technology is having, not only on organizations, but the dentists themselves and the hygienists, and then the patients for whom it is built, or we've built it for.
Talk to me about the impact that your educational background has had on you as a leader and an entrepreneur. Like, what areas has it really helped you grow in, and how did it prepare you for, building this company?
I think one thing that really got honed in an academic PhD degree has been really taking a big problem, breaking it into smaller pieces, looking at it from first principles, and then trying to solve that. And then no problem is big enough, right? And you're not putting blockers on yourself of why this shouldn't be done. If it's possible, why not? So I think that is probably a big factor. The other is like being able to aim bigger, and and they're not being afraid to fail in the process, because in PhD it's all about failure. Every day you fail and then something works, so it's like you kind of get used to that a little. And the third, I think, for me, is like really understanding why you're doing it, because I think even when you're doing a PhD, you're self-motivated, you're doing it because you really believe in the problem and really want to solve it. And while everybody might not agree with you, and you are pushing that boundary. Similarly, in the startup, I think having this belief that we'll be able to solve it, but also like being able to take on the biggest challenge, not something that will not move the needle for the world.
It's so interesting. Do you think more people that have pursued a PhD, we should like, because what are your options after a PhD? It's to continue in academia, right? Or like, I would like to see more like yourself, like that go and start these companies, though, because to your point, if you do get your PhD, you are exceptional, like the top 1%, right, of breaking down problems. And um, do, what advice would you have for those people that want to make that leap, like you did?
So for me, my PhD experience was a little different than probably 90% of people how they do the PhD, which was I was working on commercial ventures all throughout my PhD. So many startups came out of it, and so I think I kind of honed that. From the idea to like how do you actually create the first prototype, and how do you get it in front of people. What I did not know was how to raise money, because money was just given to us. Like I didn't have to write grants or anything like that. So I think that piece wasn't there. But the thing of like, hey, see a problem, uh, you know. Uh, build something, build a commercial case, build the product to solve it. I got many bats, or was able to like try that out. uh, and I think that's probably one where, if if people are doing their pursuing their PhD, and if they are interested in having quick impact, being entrepreneurship is probably one of the best ways of doing so. But then there are a lot of programs in school that they can utilize to see if this is what they want to do, because it's not for everyone. It is a very, very tough thing to do, and being able to say, okay, this is the path I would want to take, because there's also a very good, it's not just going academia. You can go into industry, you can go into or join other startups as well. So there are much easier ways, and but if you like a little pain, if you want to like but have real impact, and drive that impact, then of course entrepreneurship is probably the best way to do it.
Absolutely. It's interesting. Before you started this company, um, you were at QBio, and we recently had their chief operating officer, Clarissa Shen, on, which really cool company too. It was really interesting to. She actually ended up doing a live demo on the episode, which was cool. Um, what's Was there anything specifically while at QBio, like obviously a fast growing company, that helped you in terms of like being a leader when you moved on to start your own company? Like, I guess, what were the biggest takeaways? Because a lot of people are in these positions, right? They're at these great companies, and maybe they want to go and take that next leap to start their own company. So, what were some of the biggest takeaways you had from, let's just focus on the leadership and how to like conduct business side of things from like a company like QBio?
Yeah, so QBio, the CEO and founder is a name called Jeff Kaditz. I don't know if you met him as well, and he's awesome. Like in terms of like he has some few skills which I really learned from him, which were number one, recruiting really good people, and that is something that I think he knows how to do pretty well. And going out of your way, even for me, I was still in college, and he flew out, met me. The way he like I went from I'm not interested to like, of course I have to join this company, and going doing that in a few weeks is pretty remarkable. And then so I think that was pretty big. And then the second was like giving a lot of if some people are have potential, then giving them more and more responsibility. So at QBio, I think every quarter I was getting more responsibility. I was what's getting promoted in being able to take more and more, and there was no like stop in a way, like, and I was like, oh, I could do this, and I could help in this financial model, and I can build out this lab, and I would just like and there wasn't like, no, this isn't your job. It was more like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. So I think those were the two things that I took away from him. And I think the first one on recruiting really helped, because especially in the early stages, it is very hard to recruit, and it's something that I still do.
Does it help when you're named a top 50, what was it, the a top 50 AI company shaping the future by Forbes? Does that help with recruiting? I'm
I
sure people
don't.
want
I think it's just hard. I think it just changes the way you have to do it. But I think hiring really good people is hard. Everybody wants them, but also, first, how do you identify them? Who the the top talent is, and then second is they have to be the right fit. But then you have to kind of put in the effort to hire them as well.
What's interesting is no matter how good you get at hiring, you can still miss
Oh,
on certain
absolutely.
people, right? Um, it is a hard thing to do because everyone is bringing their A game when they're interviewing with you, right? They want to look the best, they want to, and you already like them enough on paper to interview them, right? So it's super interesting. As we wrap up here, my last question for you is just around like, what are you excited about in terms of what's next for Overjet that you can share with us today?
So I think for us, we've been very lucky in terms of we have had our first two products really hit, and provide a lot of value to our customers. We are introducing two new products uh, on the insurance side, as well as on the practice side, which I'm very excited about. And here we're utilizing and starting to connect the two together. We're helping utilizing insurance companies connections that we have, as well as the review that we do, to be able to provide experiences for to practices that were not possible before. For example, how do you allow for real-time claim authorization? So while the patient is in the chair, they know how much they owe. The insurance company has already reviewed everything, and once they walk out, they're not getting any surprise bills, etc. later on. So like having that kind of experience being built is something we're very excited about and we're working towards, and hopefully should be launching in the next few quarters.
Love it. Well, we'll definitely be on the lookout for that and keep us updated. But um, I really want to thank you once again for joining me on the podcast here today. I'm so excited for you and what you've already built and what you're doing, and look forward to future conversations.
Well, thank you so much, Jared. Thank you for having me.